Hello, dear gaming enthusiasts. Welcome to Neo's Diary. I'm Neo, and this is my first episode. If you enjoy chatting about games, movies, music, art, or deeper topics, you're in the right place. Today, I'll talk about the purpose of this channel, the topics we'll discuss here, and a bit about my own story. I'm a little nervous. I don't really know exactly what I should do. Let's see how it goes. The reason I started Neo's Diary is to share my passions and thoughts and to connect with like-minded people. I want this to be a space where gamers, art lovers, or thinkers can feel at ease. I won't be here as an expert, but as an ordinary person. Your feedback is very important to me. Please don't forget to share your thoughts, suggestions, and criticisms in the comments. So, what will happen in this podcast? Stories, reviews, and nostalgic memories from the gaming world. Comments on movies I've watched and thoughts on the cinema world, sharing everything that inspires me about music and art. We'll touch on artificial intelligence, talk about science, and of course there will be deeper conversations ranging from politics to religion and philosophy. Let me tell you a bit about myself. I'm passionate about games and have been playing them for years. Now, as a father in my 30s, I'm starting this podcast. I graduated as a science teacher and live in Istanbul. I'm also a movie lover and interested in art and music. I play guitar, baglama, and drums as an amateur. As someone trying to understand the world, I often think about politics, religion, and philosophy. This podcast will be a place where I bring all these interests together. Rather than following a specific plan, I'll talk about whatever is on my mind that day. That's why I named my channel Neo's Diary. So without further ado, let's get started. Episode 1, a bit of nostalgia, the past and present of gaming. Today I'm going to indulge in some nostalgia. As a child of the 90s, I want to share how little Neo first encountered games and what they meant to me. If I remember correctly, it was 1997. My mum had brought me a knockoff NES console as a gift from Mahmoud Pasa. We didn't actually know it was an NES, we called all of them Atari. It came with a cartridge containing popular games of the time like Mario, Tank, Contra, and Adventure Island. I would play for hours, almost blinding myself, not really knowing what I was doing. Playing games was like therapy for me. After a while, the Atari started to get boring, so in 1999 I started pressuring my family to buy me a computer. I had saved up 150 from holidaymoney.donce. Wow, your family must have been rich. This was the total from 4 holidays. My dad chipped in 150 from holiday money. Don't say, wow, your family must have been rich. This was the total from 4 holidays. My dad chipped in 50, and we bought a second-hand computer. We bought it, but I didn't even know how to turn it on. I had gotten some tips from a guy in the neighborhood, but in my excitement, I forgot everything. One day, out of curiosity, I disassembled the keyboard and mouse from the case. Back then, as some of you may know, keyboard and mouse cables had pins. They still exist on motherboards as PS2 sockets. When I bent the pins, we straightened them with my mom's lace needle and reattached them. That's how I had my first heart attack because of the computer. I had placed the case opposite my bed. I would fall asleep peacefully listening to the fan noise. The computer we bought had 3 or 4 games installed, but when I deleted the shortcuts on the desktop, I couldn't find the game folders. All this happened when I was 7 years old. Now, I'm amazed to see my 2-year-old using a phone as if he invented it himself. Original games were hard to come by back then. My dad took me to a place in Vesnesseler that sold pirated game CDs. But since I didn't know how to crack them, I couldn't open any of them. Those CDs sat in a corner for a long time. Of course, I thought, maybe my computer can't run these games. I kept telling my dad, let's buy a better computer. And my poor civil servant dad kept putting me off with various excuses. Back then, even having a bad computer was a big luxury. Later I discovered magazines like Eurogamer, PC Gamer, and Level. I got by for a long time with demo games that came with the magazines. Occasionally I got my hands on a few games that didn't require cracking. Red Alert 2, Worms, Wolfenstein. Then, when I learned how to crack games, it was hello to Max Payne, NFS Underground. And so, my gaming journey began. Of course, playing so many games caused my grades to drop, and convincing my dad to buy a new computer became even harder. For a long time, until I started university, I didn't have a proper computer. At one point, we installed Windows XP on that first computer we bought. I still think it's one of the most innovative operating systems in history. After the retro theme of Windows 98, XP's modern look made us feel like we had entered the 2000s. Now all the operating systems Microsoft releases seem to come with minor changes. Of course, a lot changes at the core, but the end-user experience remains limited. Back then, I had an incredible amount of fun playing games on that cheap or old computer. Nowadays, I don't seem to get the same enjoyment, but this isn't unique to me. Many people feel the same way. Because back then, fewer games were released, accessibility was limited. We would count the hours at internet cafes, and when the time was up, the save would be deleted and we'd start over. Still, the excitement was something else. I'll never forget the first time I played Call of Duty. I played until my eyes were bloodshot. Especially in the first mission, we would raid a village at night, hiding in craters created by artillery fire in a field. Dogfights in the air, artillery fire. That atmosphere was perfect. I also can't forget playing CS 1.5, CS 1.6, and Half-Life for hours at internet cafes. I rarely find that excitement in games these days. I'm not sure if gaming is a passion or an addiction for me now. Even though I don't get the same enjoyment, I keep playing like it's a cigarette. It still gives me some pleasure. By the way, don't get the impression that I just sit at home and play games all the time. During the day, we would play neighborhood matches outside, hopscotch. In the evenings, if I had finished my homework, I would sit at the computer until bedtime. I was a typical Gen Y kid, outside during the day, computer at night. Why don't games feel the same anymore? Actually, this isn't just about games. Old TV shows, old books, old music videos. We can extend this to many areas. From toxic political agendas to economic crises that depress 3 out of 5 people, the rising costs of hobbies, even having to pay a ton for indie games. There are many reasons. I'll talk about some of them now and others later. If we return to the question, why don't games feel the same anymore? I think there are a few more reasons besides the ones I just mentioned. The first is the nostalgia effect. The games we played during our childhood or early youth are not just games, but are also associated with many beautiful memories from that time. The games we accessed with very limited means back then gain a different value in our eyes. Over time, we tend to idealize our memories. In later years, it sometimes becomes harder to recapture that same excitement. For example, one day while playing Contra on the Atari, my mum accidentally unplugged the power cord, causing the console to turn off. Of course, I had a meltdown and didn't play for a while, but guess what? I found myself back in front of that game again. While I still get some of that feeling from Souls-like games today, the pixel graphics and hardware limitations of that era, combined with good marketing, made us enjoy them more. Another reason is increased expectations. As technology advances, so do the graphics, gameplay mechanics, and content of games. However, this progress also brings with it the expectation of more innovation. No matter how high quality a game's graphics or sound design is, we now demand different and original experiences. Because as we constantly see better, our expectations rise. Better texture resolution, more realistic shadows, ray tracing, even path tracing. It never ends. Then there's the explosion in the number of games. Back then, acquiring a game usually involved a long waiting process. New games didn't come out often, so we would savor the games we got. Today, with Steam, consoles, mobile markets, hundreds of new releases come out every day. The abundance of games sometimes leads to the question, which one should I focus on? And it becomes harder to connect deeply with any of them. Consumerism and hype culture take hold. Minds get confused. It feels like you have to play all of them. As a result, we end up with overflowing game libraries and eyes staring at empty screens. There are also issues related to personal change and time constraints. As we age, responsibilities increase and our free time decreases. When we were kids or students, the joy of immersing ourselves in a game for hours was different. Now we might only have a few hours to spare, and it's hard to focus. Even while playing, thoughts like, "I have work tomorrow," or "I need to finish this project," can affect our motivation. Another factor is competition and live service models. Instead of classic single-player games, many titles now rely on online competition or adopt a live service model. Players are expected to be constantly online, wait for updates, and deal with various microtransactions. This situation causes some players to feel like they can't enjoy the game as calmly as before. You can see stressed out kids playing LOL or Valorant everywhere. Then there's the commercialization of the industry. The gaming industry has become a much larger economy compared to the past. Big budget productions, AAA games, come with microtransactions, DLC packs, cosmetic items, and other side elements to ensure continuous revenue. Designs focused more on revenue models rather than strengthening the story or gameplay can create a feeling of not getting the same pure fun as before. There's also the decline in discovery and innovation. New genres or revolutionary ideas don't always come along. The sense of astonishment and excitement we felt when we first encountered genres like FPS, RTS, or MMORPG diminishes over time. Now there are hundreds of alternatives in most genres, and many have similar mechanics. Since truly innovative games are rarer, it's harder to find that first-time experience excitement. Spending thousands of hours on a World of Warcraft doesn't give the same feeling as spending hundreds of hours on a new MMO. So, what should we do? What am I doing? First, I carefully select the games I play. If there's a demo, I play it first. If not, I watch some gameplay. I definitely don't buy games I won't play. Then, I keep myself away from hype culture. My main goal in playing a game is to have fun. I try not to rush myself to not miss out on things. I try to overcome the fear of falling behind. No matter how much I follow popular culture trends, I don't let myself get caught up in them. Instead of missing out on things, I find it more enjoyable to savor the things I love. What else am I interested in? Besides games. Since I graduated as a science teacher, I have a great interest in science and education. During and after university, I was involved in music. I love playing the guitar. Although I mostly listen to rock music, I'm open to all good music. From time to time, I read philosophy texts, and I enjoy pondering religion and politics. I'll touch on these topics in this podcast from time to time. Closing. Yes, today we talked a bit about myself, the purpose of the podcast, my childhood memories, and the question, why don't games feel the same anymore? With this first episode, I wanted to make a nostalgic start and also give a brief evaluation of today's gaming industry. In future episodes, I'll continue to talk about many topics like games, movies, music, art, science, politics, religion, and philosophy. Thank you so much for listening. Your feedback, suggestions, and criticisms are very valuable to me. Please don't hesitate to share them with me in the comments or on social media. Until the next episode, take care.